It's late Friday afternoon. It is time to talk Dallas Cowboys football. I'm Brady Tinker, and this is Off with the Helmets, courtesy of East Coast Sports Investors. Don't make fun of the outfit. I was literally kind of doing something else, and I was dressed, and I thought, you know what? These people, this team, this season, and a divisional round game in San Francisco harkens back the greatest of memories, right? I mean, how many Hall of Famers played in 49ers Cowboys games, right? Aikman and Emmett, right? And Irvin and Larry Allen and on both sides of the football, Charles Haley and Deion Sanders, both on both sides of the football, and Steve Young and Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. And I'm old enough, and many of you are as well, to remember those days. So why the hell not? Why not go blue on blue on blue? If they make it to the Super Bowl, I'll be in a tux. The divisional round celebration is over. Well, the divisional round celebration is about to begin. What's over is the super duper wild card weekend, and that celebrating is over. We got to put it behind us, except for one more second, because I mean, wow, it was magnificent. Dak was damn near perfect. The secondary that we were worried about was everywhere it was supposed to be. The offensive line had pieces shifting 2 days before the game, and yet all of them stepped up and stood up. It was great. The coaching was great. So here we go, except for the kicker, and we'll get to that. He's done better in practice. So, okay, now let's really let you know what the Cowboys are up against in Santa Clara, California on Sunday evening at roughly 5:30 p.m. your time as they take on the San Francisco 49ers. They're up against a lot. We're going to break it down right now on Off with the Helmets. So this is our Off with the Helmets, Friday afternoon late, exciting times. Do you feel different? I don't personally, but the circumstances feel different after winning in Tampa in the super duper wild card round because there were demons to exercise. One's the greatest quarterback ever, and his record against the Cowboys, he had never lost. Well, he's lost now. By the way, he's 0-1 against the Cowboys in the playoffs. And the demon of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers overall, their mystique, their offensive line is a little too strong. Their defensive line is a little too tough. All things that last year gave the Cowboys problems. And in all honesty, all things that gave the Cowboys problems in week one of this NFL season. But this season has been an unbelievable path for the Cowboys because Tampa went upside their head 19-3. It felt like it was 40-3 in opening week. And to make matters worse, Dak Prescott ended up needing surgery on his hand. And yet in the end, it turned out probably better. Dak needed a little bit more time to heal, not just for his hand, but also for his leg that he still had some doubts about. The coaching staff had a plan. They came up with it very quickly. They went from being an offensive football team to being a defense-first operation. The defense was up to the task. They grabbed a redheaded backup quarterback, and he won 4 games in a row just by not screwing it up. And then you get Dak back, and by the end of the season, while the interceptions have bothered you, this, to me, is the best Dak Prescott we've ever seen. Was he statistically really good in that rookie year and maybe even in that second year? Yes. But this is different because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. And he had young Zeke Elliott and younger offensive line, and everything was kind of perfect in Dak's first year and a half, and then it wasn't. And so Dak has had this metamorphosis, and for me, he's home. I don't care about the interceptions because I knew, to be honest with you, that was going to happen in Tampa. I knew he had it in him. I knew the defense had it in him. I trust the players and the coaches, and it was great stuff. So this Sunday evening at 5:30, the divisional round playoff will happen. The Cowboys will finish the weekend just like they did last week. Last week, it was Monday night. This week, it's Sunday night at 5:30 p.m., the final of the 4 games, the final of the 4 divisional games. And then we will know at the end of the Cowboys game who the 4 teams are that are playing for the AFC and the NFC championship. A win for the Cowboys could very well mean the NFC championship game in Dallas. What the hell am I talking about? The Giants are very much alive in this game at Philadelphia. They are feeling their oats. They're playing good football. They harken back just a little bit of a couple of those big blue wrecking crew teams that somehow took dumbface Eli Manning to 2 Super Bowls. I'm remembering that a little bit when I watch this team and Brian Dable. I'm remembering it. And Jalen Hurts is banged up, and we don't know how banged up. But in Week 18, he wasn't himself. I won't say he wasn't very good. He wasn't himself. And if Jalen Hurts isn't the dual running threat that he can be and has been all season long, which torments defenses and defensive coordinators, the Eagles are a different team. And flatly, they're not as good. That outcome, if it happens, would have the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys for the NFC Championship game. And those of you that would have tickets will rejoice. It was predicted, by the way, on a really good show this morning on this air at East Coast Sports Invest called Sportsbook Confessions by Jeffrey Dawson, who, as I saw last year, knows a lot. The divisional playoff game you care about is Dallas at San Francisco on Sunday. Let's harken back to last year in the wild card round, because you all remember, right? We're exercising demons and then more demons, okay? This doesn't have anything to do with Aikman and Montana or Steve Young. This has to do with, really, the San Francisco 49ers going upside the head of the Dallas Cowboys last year in the first round of the playoffs, the wild card round. The game ended up 23-17, I believe, 24-17 San Francisco. But the truth is, it wasn't that close. The Cowboys made a mad dash at the end, but it was 23-7 at the end of the third quarter. Elijah Mitchell was a rookie running back who just ran hard, and he ran right through the Cowboys. Deebo Samuel ended up getting, 10 carries for 75 yards, and he just kept pushing people out of the way. They had run for 135 yards as a team at the end of the third. The Cowboys had a little 10-0 run in the fourth, and we all remember the play that ran out the clock. But you remember that play, but that play wasn't the game. That game was over mid-third quarter. And the bottom line was, it was an ass whipping by San Francisco in one manner that was the biggest. They were too physical. They were too physical on the defensive line. They were too physical on the offensive line. The running back and the wide receiver, who pretends to be a running back, ran through, over, and around the Cowboys defense. And the good news is the Cowboys knew it. After the game, they knew it. They sucked on it the entire offseason. They talked about it amongst themselves. They've been pinpointing this game. This is the game they wanted. And they did something about it. See, Garoppolo was very average in that game, as he usually is. Deebo did very little receiving. Kittle did very little receiving as well. The truth is, Dak was lacking in confidence in that game, and to me, throughout most of the second half of last season. And I've been harping on this all year up to this point. He wasn't right at the end of last season. He wasn't right at the beginning of this season, but he's right now. But in that game, on January 16th, 2022, from almost the beginning, the Cowboys were going to lose. And it felt wrong to you because the San Francisco's 10-7. They were playing in AT&T Stadium against your Cowboys, who went 12-5. They're sure as hell going to win that game. Only they weren't. The physicality was too much that San Francisco brought. It left an imprint on the Dallas Cowboys organization and the players who would be here this year. So what did the Cowboys do? They went to the draft, and one of the number one things written up on the big whiteboard and all over the room was, we're getting hard asses. We're getting tough football players. Every chance we got, if we're choosing this one or that one, we're choosing the one that's a hard ass. So in round number one, they needed an offensive tackle because they'd let Lael Collins go. They chose, and we all shook our heads, Tyler Smith, a very tough, very big left tackle from Tulsa who had led the world in penalties. And we were all like, great, because this Cowboy team doesn't commit enough penalties on its own. Let's go use a first-round draft pick on a kid from Tulsa. Tulsa, not the SEC, frigging Tulsa. Let's go get him and have him add to the penalty party. I understood. Tyler Smith has turned out to be everything you could have possibly wanted. And one of the things he is one tough son of a bitch. In the second round, they took defensive end or edge rusher Sam Williams from the University of Mississippi. And you watch Sam Williams hit people, and you've watched Sam Williams in little scrums when people are pissy. Sam has an edge. He's tough. And you know that in a fight, Sam's not one of those guys who's going to back away. He's going to stand right up there, stick his chin out, and then he will knock you on your ass. One more player added. Tyler Smith, Sam Williams. The other one that stands out to me is fourth-round pick Jake Ferguson. He hasn't been a huge part of this season, but you've noticed him. He's big, he's tough, he blocks really well, he runs good patterns, and Dalton Schultz is still here. But there were games when Schultz was out, when Jake Ferguson stepped up and was a big part of this team. They like him. He's from Wisconsin. The kid is tough. So those three picks were really the key picks that added back into, hey, we weren't able to stand up to the physicality of the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs for the 21 season, which was in January of 22. We weren't, but now we're going to be. So we drafted these 3 players. They haven't been the total answer. The rest of the answer is everybody knew it. So there are some players that are gone that were here. And what do they do in free agency to continue to address this? We need to be tougher nature. They re-signed Malik Hooker, who is a missile, who's a very, very good player. Jerry always talks about that hooker that he likes. Malik Hooker got 2 years. Damonte KZ was allowed to leave. Defensive end Dorrance Armstrong was a free agent. He got 2 years and $13 million, and he is especially stout against the run, and he had 5 sacks last year. This year, with Micah getting better and better and Tank playing most of the games, he got to 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 recovered. Dorrance Armstrong is a tough man. They re-signed Leighton Vander Esch. Remember, they declined his 5th-year rookie option. Then he was kind of good at the end of his 4th year, and they knew he knew the defense, and they kind of wanted him, so they got lucky because he was really only good the last 4 or 5 games of that season. So he came back this season for a reasonable amount on a 1-year contract. And Leighton Vander Esch is going to get paid in 2023 because he's been very good. He's very tough. The neck and the back and all the things that were wrong with him seem to, at this point, be subsided. And Vander Esch has had a good season. They signed defensive end Dante Fowler Jr. for 1 year, another tough guy. They kept Jaron Kearse because he leads them. He hits. He's a heat-seeking missile, and he truly is a leader in every way in that defense for Dan Quinn. So those are the things that they did in the draft and in free agency, re-signing and or getting some new players because they had purpose in constructing this 2022-23 team. And it very much included being physically tougher, being able to stand up and be stout and get in the fight and stay in the fight. A firmness is what we knew was coming out of camp because Dan Quinn said, and Mike McCarthy said, we're going to be a defense-first operation. Now, the truth is, that was after Dak got hurt. I think that it really had to be when Dak got hurt because they weren't going to score a lot of points with the redheaded stepchild in at, and no offense, I apologize because he was very good. But anyway, they became a defense-first operation. Mike and Dan got together. The offensive coordinator said, okay, whatever you tell me, we'll tone it down. We won't turn it over, and we'll let the defense and the special teams do their job. So we are here, and we are tougher. And whether you believe it or not, because a lot of people say this has been one of Dak's worst years, you're absolutely wrong. This in terms of growth, both physically and mentally, and in a leadership ability, not just in talking it or in the locker room, but in a leadership ability on the football field, has maybe been Dak's best year. Maybe blasphemous, but I promise you, Dak is the best that I have seen him in 4 or 5 years, and you saw it on Monday night against Tampa Bay. So Sunday afternoon at 5:30 p.m., it's the 49ers in Santa Clara, California, on a wet, damp, natural grass field, et cetera, problems. The Cowboys aren't very good on the grass, but they were pretty good last week. The Cowboys will have trouble with the moisture. The kicker is going to have his problems. We'll get to all of that. And San Francisco's defense is ranked number 1 overall. How the hell are we going to win this game? Well, we talked about in Sportsbook Confessions this morning the fact that the line is sitting around 3.5. All of us thought it was going to be 6 when it began, really. San Francisco's won 11 games in a row. McCaffrey played a few plays in his first game when he got with the team when he didn't even know the offense. But since he got in as a starter, they haven't lost. They're 11-0. They are rolling. And they've been through 3 quarterbacks. They are now sitting with Brock Purdy, who's 22 years old, a rookie out of Iowa State, and he can't lose. So how the hell are we going to win this game? The weakness on defense, if there is one for the 49ers, is they were 23rd. Now, remember this, number 1 overall. They were 23rd in yards given up passing. They also have not perpetrated a lot of interceptions. So Dak, CD, Gallup, T.Y. Schultz, and Pollard are all on call here, and they are aware of these numbers. They are aware between the 20s, they are going to have an opportunity to pass for a lot of yards. San Francisco's yard number given up passing per game is 225. That's their average against the league. This Cowboys offense isn't average. It isn't league average. It's better than that. So it's going to be tough to run against the 49ers. They're very good against the run, just like it was last week against Tampa. And I sat here with you and we decided if you can get Pollard to roughly 80 and he has 3 or 4 of those runs where he gets 12 or 15, and he scares the defense enough to keep them back. That's all you need. And that's what they got last week from Pollard. They got 77, they got 40 from Zeke, and they got 30 from Dak. Plenty. If you can replicate that and do what you did in that game here, that will be plenty, because the passing offense is going to have its chance, okay? If you can get Dak to a tidy 270 and 2, and special teams works out like you want it to, the punter's been great all year, right? The kick returner and punt returner was first team all-pro, was Cavante Turpin. So there are things that can happen there for this team. Special teams have been great. We'll get to the kicker in a minute. But suffice to say right this minute, Maher's had 2 good days of practice. The young man that they brought in, not Vizcaino, but Vizcaino, hasn't been very good, maybe sort of as expected, but maybe overall it had its effect. Here's the one bad news that I got just a few minutes ago. The man who played left tackle last week, you'll remember they sort of switched everything up. It seemed like right before the game, which had me going, what the hell? This sounds like desperation, but the offensive line last week was fantastic. Unfortunately, Jason Peters, who you saw limp off, has been at practice most of the week. He's been on the court. He's been on the sidelines. He is now out. So don't even think it. You remember how Dan Aykroyd thought about the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and then he showed up? Don't even think about what I'm going to tell you after I tell you. Okay, tick your lock and throw it over your shoulder. Jason Peters is out. It's fine. Tyler Smith moves to left tackle. It's where he played all year. He's fine. Connor McGovern moves to left guard. He played there a lot. Biotish is back and feels great at center. That's fine. You have the world's best right guard in Zach Martin. And Tyron Smith had his best game so far at right tackle last week. We're fine. We're fine. That's a unit that knows each other, that knows the angles and the hips and the push and what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. They've had film out their ass to watch about what they did right and wrong last year in the running game against San Francisco. It's all fine, except for one thing. Nobody can get hurt. Nobody. The beginnings of who comes into this game, if one of those guys gets hurt, is Josh Ball, drafted in, I don't remember, I think the 7th round, and hasn't seen the field this year. And now they've got practice squad guys and guys they've taken off the street, and they'll have guys in uniform that you've never heard of. And I tell you this, you damn well don't want to see. Okay, I told you, don't think about it from this point on. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was stomping down the street in New York, and it wasn't pretty. Stop thinking about it. Today, in his press conference, Mike McCarthy was once again, like he was maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, asked about being an underdog. And he goes, "We're the underdog?" And they were like, "Yeah, 3.5 or 4 points." And he started laughing, and they said, "Okay, last time you went with that sort of shit-eating grin when we told you were an underdog, it actually turned out really well. Your team won." And he goes, "I'm not going to give you anything else except to suffice to say they had told him earlier that Micah Parsons had said, 'I'm fine with us being underdog.' As a matter of fact, I kind of like that underdog role right now." So Mike ended the press conference saying, "I'll just say this. I'm with Micah Parsons. I'm on the page he's on." Now, what he said 6 weeks ago was, "I'll tell you this, and I'm going to go tell them that we are nobody's underdog." And I know that is how Mike McCarthy feels. I'm right here with him, and he's right there with Micah Parsons. So underdog, underdog. The bottom line is this Dallas Cowboys team has to go get a lead, because they're going up against a kid quarterback. And Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, was the last player out of the draft. If you haven't watched the show or seen that, he was picked 262 or whatever in the NFL draft, the very last pick. And essentially in the history of the NFL, other than a kicker, Ryan Suckup, who had 0 points last week for Tampa, there really hasn't been a highly successful Mr. Irrelevant player. Brock Purdy so far may have already outdone anybody who has ever played, not just players, but quarterbacks as well, as Mr. Irrelevant. He is 6-0. 6-0. Now, there's some caveat to that. First of all, Christian McCaffrey's been there the whole time and has been this amazing addition to their offense and to their running game. It's sort of taken some heat off of Debo. Last year's rookie running back hasn't had to play as much, and this offense has been a well-oiled machine under Trey Lance, right? Then Jimmy Garoppolo, and now Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. Credit to the San Francisco 49ers for going through 3 quarterbacks, not cornerbacks, not left guard, quarterbacks in the NFL through 1, through 2, through 3, and you end up the number 2 seed in the NFC. It's damn impressive. It really is. So here is Brock Purdy, Iowa State University, 22 years old, played very little, as you can imagine, because there were two quarterbacks ahead of him. He's working with the scout team. He's working on perpetrating who the other team is, right? There's a quarterback on the other side trying to be whoever, right? Whoever you're going to play that week. That's what Brock Purdy did. That's all he did. So he's not familiar with these wide receivers. He's not comfortable with these running backs. And yet he's come in and gone 6-0. So how do I tear this down for you at all? Well, the best team he played was Seattle, and he played them twice. He got the Buccaneers, who they beat 35-7 when they were probably at their lowest. He got Seattle, that they barely beat 21-13. He got the Commanders of Washington. He got the Raiders of Oakland, who they struggled with. He got Arizona Cardinals, who are an absolute mess, and I feel for their fan base. And then he got Seattle again in the playoffs at home, killed them 41-23. So what Brock Purdy hasn't had is a really good defense and pass rush and some badass stout men to play football against for an entire game. The other thing that hasn't happened is he essentially hasn't been behind. He hasn't had to do anything mildly heroic or to turn up pass after pass after pass. He's been able to stay in this wonderful offense. This offense, Shanahan is so good. This offense for San Francisco is so great, and it looks so simple. And the truth is, it really is. And they are very good at doing some of what Andy Reid does, and maybe overall better. And that is that when they line up and they put lots of people in motion, they move people around, and they do lots of shifting and all the stuff they do, you kind of know it's a run because it's almost always a run. And if it's not a run, it's something coming off of a run that is a short pass. Harken back to the Montana days, right? The West Coast offense was one short pass after another and a whole bunch of yards after catch. It's not that different now. So the Cowboys' task, and they know this because they have film, and because they're smart, and because their head coach and all their coaches know what Shanahan does, and that is the offense is kind of designed to show the defense something early. This is, with all the motion, the shifting, here's what we, the 49ers, are going to do. We are going to act like we're going that way, probably with a run. And the truth is, we're going that way. And we only need one of you or one and a half of you to buy into that. And we've got the nice opening that we need. And they are consistent with it. The motion, the movement, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So the Cowboys, while I want the offense and Dak Prescott to lay their eyes on what they see, make the proper throw, make the proper read. When it's RPO, do the right thing, because you're looking at it, you see it, and you believe it. And we've not seen Dak do anything better than he did last week against Tampa. So I'm okay with what's going to happen there. The defense has to do something that's slightly different, and that is look at it, have their eyes see it, and make sure that what they see is real. Because when two guys go that way and the offense is going that way, the 49ers are going to gouge you rushing the football. And it is what they are planning on doing. The Cowboys can do this. They really can. The defensive front four is healthy. There are no other injury issues other than what you already know. Jordan Lewis is gone. Brown is gone, and there are substitutes playing cornerback. But Dan Quinn and company used all those safeties and Van Der Esch and every other trick in the book that he had, and he knows how to shift this thing around. Dan Quinn's going to get a head coaching job somewhere else because he's brilliant. He really is. He's brilliant at doing this. So his team will be ready, but the task will be, don't get fooled pre-snap, and don't get fooled and take your first false step one way or another. And it's tough because the 49ers bank on doing it, and they do it. So if you can take care of things like that, then you're going to make Purdy throw the ball more. And what happens when Brock Purdy has to throw, has to flip his hips, he leaves the pocket a little bit early, he's going to get a big dose of 11 and 92 and 90. And the Cowboys are going to come at him, and they're going to do some blitzing because the safeties are very good on this team at blitzing. They're going to show him, as everybody's probably done at this point, they're going to show him man and flip into zone. They're going to play too deep, and then they're not. They're going to go naked, and then they're not. I mean, the Cowboys will be ready, and the real outlier here is they have a rookie quarterback. We have a quarterback who's played 7 years and who has come to this point specifically for this game, ready, really maybe for the first time in his career, really maybe ready for the first time in his career to beat a Tampa Bay, to beat a San Francisco on the road, and to maybe host a NFC championship at home against the New York Giants. See it and trust it on offense, Dak Prescott. Believe what you see. Use your legs, because the key to this running game, like it was in Tampa, will be Dak Prescott's willingness to take what's given him, not only on short passes, but also when they play man-to-man and they turn around, they run that way against those 4 wide receiver sets. Take your 5 yards up that beautiful green grass, mucky field and get 5, get 7, get 8. And at the end of the game, if Dak's got whatever, 7 carries for whatever, it will probably be perfect, because that's the little accent the running game needs, okay? Pollard's going to get you some. Zeke's going to run hard. This Cowboys team is going to try to pound this ball probably more than you will want them to. You may get a little bit frustrated and say, it ain't working. It ain't working. It's necessary. It's necessary to keep Bosa off of the quarterback. It is necessary to get San Francisco to believe that Pollard is going to be a problem. And then you can get to CD. And then you can get to TY. And then you can get to Gallup, who looked so good last week. Didn't that make you feel good? All of those things are good. Really, this thing is set in a perfect trajectory. And I am here to tell you, after doing the show with Jeffrey Dawson this morning on Sportsbook Confessions, I believe the Cowboys are going to win a close game. And it may be late. We may be sitting there holding hands and arms locked at 23-all. But the Cowboys are going to find a way to win this game. I don't have that much to tell you about Maher, other than I know I ranted and raved earlier in the week about WTF, how is not another kicker not here? And then on Wednesday, another kicker showed up. Vizcaino hasn't been very good. The wind has been whipping here at AT&T and outside at the Star, where they've been practicing. Great news. So the Cowboys are seeing weather similar to what they're going to see, and the wind has been whipping, and the truth is Maher's kicked it straight and true. So I don't know, and no one shared with anybody why they believe Maher is going to be better, why they believe this is going to get fixed, but they firmly do. And the one story that I heard this morning that I liked was Mike McCarthy, and now I'm going to blank on his name, but Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, was a very good coach. And the kicker that's still in Green Bay, and I'm not going to look up his name, had a 5 missed kick game. And so McCarthy said, we have been through this exact thing. We have been through something with a veteran kicker that seemed a little like the yips, and we addressed it. We had lots of conversations, which they've done with Maher. We made a plan as to, now we've talked about it. Now we think we know why it happened. The first couple, he said he thought were that the operation wasn't great and that they were pushes. After that, number 3 and 4, it was in his head. So they've addressed all of it. What wasn't right about the hold, the kick, the swing of the leg in the first 2, and where did you go when your head went crazy for the next 2? They've addressed each of those things individually, one by one by one. And I love that McCarthy has been through this. I'm sorry, I can't remember the darn Green Bay kicker's name, but you get the point. He has seen this. They dealt with it. I screamed, you screamed, and finally they brought in a young kicker just in case. Just in case Vizcaino went 30 for 30 in 2 days, just in case. But it doesn't look like he will be here probably tomorrow. They will travel to Santa Clara with Maher as the kicker, and all of us will just have to trust that process, because there may be a big kick needed in this game, and that is the only thing that has me wringing my hands. It really is. Other than that, I really am proud of what this Cowboys team is doing, and I'm enjoying being here with you going through this process. Divisional round, isn't it nice? Having beaten an unwilling but a talented foe and the best quarterback, it feels to me like demons have been exercised. So they don't have to win this game. I said last week was a must win for this organization, this quarterback. They don't have to win. Now I think they're going to. I think that all the things that they told us throughout the year, how they felt about each other, how they knew the defense was really good, how they knew the offense was really good, and it was under Dak. Throw aside the interceptions, they averaged almost 35 points a game under Dak. That's pretty good. They ran the ball really well this year, and it was basically a revamped running game in terms of how they blocked it. Amazing. They played great defense all year. They had about a 3-game stretch where they struggled to tackle. Overall, the special teams have been primo all year, and last week didn't hurt. He missed 4 extra points, and we all sort of gulped, saying, we've seen comebacks from TB12. This could be trouble. It wasn't. And so now we trust in Maher, and I trust in this team. I really love this coaching staff, and I think this team is over a hump. Now, that could mean an NFC Championship game, and that could mean a trip to Arizona for the Super Bowl. These are exciting times. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I'm thrilled that East Coast sports investors wanted to have off with the helmets, and I look forward to talking to you next Wednesday about what's coming up next for a very good victorious Dallas Cowboys football team. I'm Brady Tinker for Off of the Helmets and East Coast Sports Investors. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be right there with you at 4:30, 5:30 Sunday, watching the Cowboys finish off a great weekend of football.